Hello and welcome to episode 83 of Daryl Show Your Work. So in this episode, I'll be going over how we could bypass UAC, all right, using some modules within the Metasploit framework. All right, so before I dive any further into this, I'd like to give my usual disclaimer, preface this video by saying this is for educational research and ethical purposes only. Any sort of malicious actions that may directly or indirectly come from someone watching this video, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. All right, so just to give a high level explanation of what UAC is. So UAC is short for user account control. So what that is, it's a security feature in Windows that helps prevent unauthorized changes to a device by requiring confirmation of actions that need administrative privileges. So think of it as if I want to do any type of advanced actions, it's going to require another set of eyes or somebody else to approve of those actions. Ideally, another administrator within the enterprise. However, I'm going to show a way of how we could bypass that whole process. So, um, even I've ahead of time, I've already found our target IP. All right, so that's going to be 10.3.31.154. So that's the target host that we're going to be targeting throughout this video. However, I do need to find my IP because I'm going to need that as far as a parameter when working with some of the tools here throughout the video. So in order to do so, I'm gonna say ifconfig. All right, so since we're in the internal, my internal network here, I'm working on Ethernet 1. All right, so here is my IP address. So I'm going to copy that into mousepad just so I can always return back here when I need to paste it into a tool. All right. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to run our target IP against run nmap against our target IP to find if port 80 is open, and that way we'll know if we are indeed targeting a web server, which this method primarily exploits or utilizes. All right. So let me go and copy the target IP because I'm going to need to give nmap that. All right, so we're going to say nmap, and then we're going to do a service scan. All right, let's see. I don't know why that came out like that. Just kind of clean this up a bit. All right. So we're looking to see if port 80 is open on this target. This may take a little while. Sometimes some nmap scans take longer than others, just depending on what's going on with the target. So let's just give nmap a moment here. All right, there we go. All right, so very first port, we could see that port 80 is open, HTTP. So let's open up a web browser here. And let's try to pay a visit and see what lives there, since we know it's web facing. All right, so we see that this is indeed appears to be a web server. All right, so one thing as part of our enumeration we want to do, we're going to look down here to the bottom left. Don't know, I can maximize the screen, maybe a little hard to see. Let's see if I can zoom in. Zoom in a bit here. All right. So this information right here is going to be very important. All right, where it says server information. And so this gives us information about the file server and the HTTP file server and its version, HTTP file server 2.3. So I'm gonna click on this because there's something that that it's going to tell us when I click on it. All right, so if we look up here at the URL, it takes us to www.rejetto.com. So this is telling me that the type of web server this is rejetto. So we need to be able to find some sort of module or tool that specifically targets rejetto web servers. All right. So since we got that information, let's go back to the terminal. All right, so the next thing we can do is let's start up the Metasploit framework and let's see if we can find any sort of exploit module within it that specifically targets that type of web server. All right, so I'm gonna say service, PostgresQL, start, and then we're gonna combine that with the msfconsole command. Oh, fat fingered that. All right. Change that A to an S. All right. All right. All right. So to get started here, I'm going to create a workspace. So I'm going to say workspace dash A to create it. And we're going to just simply call this UAC for user account control. All right. All right. So then the next thing I want to do here, I'm going to set our target host as a global parameter. So I don't have to keep setting that throughout the video here. So I'm going to say our host. I'm going to paste that in here. There we go. So now that should be automatically set anytime I'm making any sort of adjustments to the configurations of any modules used. All right, so now I'm going to specifically search for rejetto and see if I can find if there's any sort of rejetto modules, preferably exploit modules. All right, so I'm going to say search rejetto. All right, and we have a rejetto HTTP file server remote command execution. All right, so since that's the only tool, I'm gonna say use 0. All right, now that we got that loaded up, let me go to show options just to see if there's anything else that I need to set up here within the module. And scrolling up a little bit here. Nope, it doesn't appear. There's my remote host. Nope, everything appears to be good to go. All right, so I am going to let this rip. Exploit. All right, so once I do this, this should give me a meterpreter session to our target web server host here. Here we go, meterpreter session 1 open. All right, so I know in my previous videos we're used to seeing me run, the usual meterpreter commands like sysinfo and get UID, but I'm gonna dive a little deeper in this one. All right, so I'm gonna do my usual sysinfo. right, so we could see that that the name of the computer is victim. They're running a Windows Server 2012 operating system with 64-bit architecture, but we can see that my meterpreter session is 32-bit. All right, so let's say that I wanted to actually increase my meterpreter session from a 32-bit to a 64-bit. All right, so what that's by doing that, what that's gonna do is gonna allow more compatibility with the native system processes in the 64-bit system, and it's going to enable me to use more powerful exploitation tools. All right, so I'm gonna start off by saying pgrep, and I'm gonna look for a specific process that I know that a 64-bit service to see if it's running. So let me see pgrep, and let's see, we're going to use the explore service because that's a 64-bit service. So let's see, and so see what this does, it returns back the process ID to me. All right, so once I have that process ID, I'm gonna say migrate, and then I'm gonna give it the process ID. And then what that's gonna do is then it's gonna give me the same the same the same bit or session bit that this process has. So it's going to take me from 32-bit to 64-bit because this is running a 64-bit process. Okay. All right. All right. So now let's see how well that worked. Now I'm gonna do sysinfo again. All right, now if we look down here to my meterpreter session, now I have a 64-bit session along with the operating system 64-bit version. All right, so now let's do some more enumeration here. All right, so I'm gonna do my usual get UID. All right, so I'm victim slash admin. All right, now let's say I want to see what privileges I have. All right, so these are some privileges, but it's not a whole lot. Like if we see change notification privilege, increased working set privilege, shutdown privilege, time zone privilege, undock privilege. These aren't very these are pretty standard privileges. All right, so the whole purpose of what I want to accomplish here in this video, I want to conduct, now that I'm inside of the system, I want to be able to conduct some privilege escalation, so I'll be able to do a bit more here inside of the victim's computer. All right, so since that's ultimately my goal, first I'm going to execute this shell, since I'm running a reverse shell. All right, so now that I'm in here, I'm going to do some more enumeration. So I'm gonna say net user, which is a Windows command. All right, so what this is returned back to me is it's going to allow me to see other accounts that are associated with this user's computer. All right, so we see that there's an admin account, an administrator account, and a guest account. So this is going to be important in terms of how I escalate my privileges moving forward. So let's say I wanted to see what local group administrators is in. So let's say net group, and I'm just shooting out into the wind here and say I'm basically looking for a group called administrators to see if any of these accounts belong to that local group. So let's see if that group exists, if any of these three accounts belong to that. All right, and then we can indeed see that actually it does exist, and that we have both the admin and the administrator accounts belong to that group. So that's good to know. All right, now I want to um, be able to test out my privileges here, my current privileges. And so what I'm going to do is, since um, the name of my current username is victim/admin, I want to be able to see if I have privileges such as being able to change a password. All right, so in order to do that, I could say net user admin. All right, so I'm just going to choose, let's see, I'm going to try to choose the password for the admin user here. And so I'm going to try to change it to password 123. All right, let's see if that works. All right, and we can see I got to access denied down here. So that's telling me that I don't have the right amount of privileges to be able to do that. All right, so I'm going to exit out of my shell here and go back to meterpreter. All right, and then I'm going to in a new terminal. All right, I am going to actually construct a payload using MS-Venom. All right, to try to try to upload it to this system. All right, and I'm gonna use the multi-handler within the Metasploit framework in order to do that. All right, so using Venom here, I'm gonna say MSF Venom. All right, and then I'm gonna say -p for payload, and then I'm gonna tell it where this payload is located. That I want to wrap into um, my own file. All right, so this is located in Windows Meterpreter reverse underscore TCP. That's the file. All right, now remember when I said I would need my IP address? This is where I'm gonna need it because I have to specify the listening host, which is me. All right, so let's go back up here to mousepad. All right, I'm gonna copy my IP address here. All right, and then I also have to tell it the listening port, and we're going to tell it to listen on port. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that shouldn't be utilized, and I'm gonna say -f to tell it the format, and we want this in an exe um, format, and then I want it to output everything once it takes this payload. I want it to output it to a file called backdoor.exe, and once it does its thing, that should then be present in my local current directory. All right, and so I'm gonna do a list command just to make sure that it's there. Backdoor is indeed there. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do is here in this particular terminal, I know we have Metasploit running in another terminal, but I need to go into the Metasploit framework in this terminal as well to run the multi-handler. And thinking and I know I ran the multi-handler in a previous video and realized I didn't take the time to explain it. Think of multi-handler similar to the way that I've used Netcat in previous videos as a listener that listens for out for a connection and establishes that connection from our machine to a remote machine. All right, so just like we set up Netcat listener to listen out for connection that we execute, and it gets us inside of the door of whoever the target is. That's the way that multi-handler works. And when I set a payload inside a multi-handler, I have to make sure that the payload aligns to everything that I specified here in backdoor, because that's what it's going to listen out for. And we'll see that as I continue. So I'm going to, the post grade database is already, SQL database is already running. So all I need to do is just launch msfconsole. And I can also verify this once I get in here to just make sure that database is still running. All right, let me see. Let me just do DB status just to make sure we got connection here in this terminal. We do. It says connected to MSF, connection type PostgreSQL. All right. So next, I want to set up that multi-handler. So again, what multi-handler is going to do is going to receive a connection. It's going to receive a connection once our payload is executed on a target. But first, I need to upload that backdoor exe file that I created and execute that on the victim side in order to start a to execute that on start a connection on this side on my local on my local network. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I actually have to set the payload. So we want to make sure that this payload is set to exactly to what inside of that backdoor.exe says. So remember it's Windows. All right, interpreter, and then it's reverse underscore TCP. All right. All right. Now I have to set the local host. And again, we want to make sure everything lines up. So I'm going to give it my IP address. All right. Let me make sure. Let me just double check that. Yep. All right. That's me. All right. And then we have to set up the listening port, which we set that as 1234. All right. So now I'm going to run this, and this should behave like a netcat listener and just basically sit and listen into listening mode until it receives that connection from backdoor.exe's execution. All right, so I'm going to jump back into the first terminal here. All right, now that I'm in here, let's dive back into our victim's machine. All right, so say pwd. Okay, hold on. No, I got ahead of myself here. Hold on, I shouldn't have. Let's exit that back out. Let me do a pwd here. Sorry, because that's not a Windows command. All right, there we go. So, okay, so I'm in system 32. All right, and then just make sure that everything here is still the same. Get UID, victim admin, get privileges. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the command, get privs command, because we want to be able to tell what the differences are once I'm able to successfully execute this. All right, so you see this group of 5 different privileges here. All right, so now it's time to try to upload backdoor dot exe. All right, so I'm going to go to from here. I'm going to change directories into the root directory of C. All right. And then just make sure that's where I am. Yep. All right. That's where, all right. I'm in a root directory. All right. So let's make a new directory, and we're going to call this directory temp, which is a common directory that attackers like to store um, executable files or malicious files into. All right. All right. Now let's change to the temp directory. cd temp. All right. Now let's get ready to upload our malicious file here that I created with msvenom. So upload backdoor exe. All right, that's been uploaded. All right, to the temp directory within the host, the target host. All right, and then there's another file that I want to upload. All right, and so what this file is going to do, we're going to need this file to execute first to bypass the user account control. All right, and once it does that, then we'll be able to run backdoor exe, because if we don't first bypass the UAC first, it's going to block our ability to run backdoor.exe, which is the point of the whole UAC feature. All right, so hold on, give me a minute here. Trying to find a file here that I'm going to upload. Okay, here it is. All right. So then the second file we want to upload, we want to say upload. All right, and this is located in our root directory. All right, and then on the desktop. All right, and then it's under the tools folder, and then the UACME. All right, and let's see, the name of this file is AKAGI64. All right, so just checking my syntax. Oh yeah, we want to say exe because that's an exe file as well. All right, so checking my syntax here. All right, everything should be good to go. So let's upload that. All right, looks like that uploaded successfully. Now let's do a shell. All right, so it put me into the temp directory. So I'm gonna do a dir command just to make sure that those two files are indeed in there. Both are in there. So now it's time to execute that Akagi 64 exe file first. It then execute the backdoor, and what that should do, jump it back to our other session right here really quick. It should start a meterpreter session over here in our other terminal. Okay, all right. So as in always in Windows, to execute a file from the command line, I'm gonna say dot and then backslash Akagi 64.exe. All right, 23. And we want to reference the C drive. And then we want to be able to call temp backdoor.exe. All right. All right, so this again, to explain the command line here, we're going to run the Akagi 64.exe file, because that file is what's going to allow us to bypass that user account, the user account control. All right. So once we do that, then we'll be able to successfully execute the backdoor exe, which would then enable us to run that meterpreter session from the other session. All right. So let's hit enter. Let's see what happens. All right. So it executed that. So it doesn't look like much happened on our end, but let's check the other session. And bingo, we got our meterpreter session. All right. Now that we have our meterpreter session there's a few things that I can do here. All right. So let's check some things. Remember that? Remember that list of just five privileges? Let's see now what's happened in this session. So I'm gonna say get UID. All right, UID is still the same. So let's say, so we know we're the same user. Now let's say sysinfo. All right, where we look like we're in the back in the 32-bit process. So let's see. I'm gonna say in order, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you real quick how that works, how the whole migration thing works. So I'm gonna say PS, and I'm gonna show the process tree of all the different processes running. Okay, so we can see the different processes running. So when I migrate to a 64-bit process, anything that has under user that says NT authority system, that's a type of process that I want to migrate to in order to have a 64-bit process that allows me to run more powerful commands. All right, so in this instance, I am going to choose the LSAS .exe process, and it looks like the process ID is 496. All right, so we're going to migrate to 496. 96. All right, and that should get us our 64-bit session. That's going to allow me to run more powerful commands. So let's do sys. No, I'm sorry, get privileges again. Get privs. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I meant to do sysinfo again, but actually, no, this shows now that once I did that, you see all these privileges I have now. Remember, I only have a list of 5 privileges. Now I have a ton of privileges now, and so this is how the privilege escalation um, is ran. So that's what all of this allowed me to do by bypassing that UAC feature. Now it allowed me to conduct privilege escalation within our target host. So I'm gonna say sysinfo here, and this is what I meant to show. I got ahead of myself, but you can see now that I have a 64-bit session as well. So let's say because I have the 64-bit session now let's say if I wanted to do something really dangerous, like let's say a hash dump of those 3 accounts that we saw. So let's say hash dump, and there we go. We see the admin account, the administrator account, and the guest account, and now I have a hash dump. So I can plug this into something like a Hashcat or a John the Ripper, and to try to crack the username, well, not the username but the passwords associated with these accounts, and now have valid entry into the account where into the accounts now where now I'm maintaining persistence through legitimate logins, and it's going to be harder for now the analysts on the target host end to be able to detect myself as a malicious user, since I'm actually using valid credentials to log in and not necessarily using a backdoor exe or a meterpreter session anymore. All right, so to give a high level explanation of what I was able to accomplish here. So we started off by taking our already known target host. We enumerated that by checking to see if port 80 was open. We found out it was open. We visited that site, and then we saw that there was a feature there that would allow us to be able to see what type of a web server it was running. We saw that it was rejetto. All right. So then once I obtained that information, I went inside the Metasploit framework to specifically look for a tool that targets rejetto HTTP servers, which I found one that allows that remote code execution. All right. So once I found that, um, I then um, 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 executed that and started a interpreter session, which I showed us how we can then our our ability to run more powerful commands by increasing our session from a 32-bit session to a 64-bit session. All right, and then but once I further enumerated, I found these three accounts: this admin account, this administrator account, this guest account, and I tried to see, well, with my current set of privileges, would I be able to do something like change a password for a user? And I couldn't do something that basic. Okay, so then that led me then to opening up another terminal and then using the MS Venom utility to then create my own payload that would basically, once uploaded to the target host, would allow me to run a reverse shell in there and be able to execute another payload that would help me to override the user access control that was blocking my ability to do something like, again, like changing a password. So ultimately, what this payload is going to do once I use another payload. Um, um, Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Um, the Akagi payload. Basically, once I bypass that, then it'll basically help me to escalate my privileges in order to be able to do pretty much anything I want on this system. So anyway, I created that payload with MS Venom, started up another Metasploit session, used the multi-handler, set it into listening mode, went back to my original Metasploit interpreter session, and then began to create a new directory within uh, the root directory of the C drive, upload my backdoor.exe payload there, and also the Akagi 64 payload. All right, and so what the Akagi 64 payload does again, it allows me to bypass that user access control feature of Windows. All right, that was blocking me from um, being able to change a password, and that would have also been blocked me from being able to run a backdoor exe, since someone else would have to then approve of me doing that, and we don't want anybody else knowing that I'm here and and knowing and having to verify, you know, that I can run certain processes. So I uploaded those, executed both of those within the target host um, after executing a shell, and then so that set up a within our other interpreter session, that set up a new interpreter session, which then showed that I had now had escalated privileges. I was able to migrate to a 64-bit session again within interpreter, and then from there I was able to do a hash dump and dumping the password hashes of the three existing accounts on this server. All right. So again, the thing that really enabled me to do this was the allowing of a remote code. All right, from where I was into the target host. All right, and then also that exploit of that specific version of the web server, that rejetto vulnerability. That's what allowed me to get into the system in the first place. So either this user needs to either patch that known vulnerability, or they need to find another version of a web server to run that's not vulnerable to that type of attack. So as always, please like, share, and subscribe, and share. Make sure you share your work. And until next time, take care of yourself, and God bless.